If we say, long live Fidel, long live Raul, long live the government, that's legal. But if we say the opposite, then it's illegal.
Egberto Escobedo Morales calls himself an independent journalist, but reporting in Cuba can be dangerous. Recently, an independent, international, nonprofit organization called the Human Rights Watch released its annual report on Cuba, which says the government controls all media outlets in Cuba and tightly restricts access to outside information, severely limiting the right to freedom of expression. That's why Cuban independent journalists are pushing for change. As a result, Jose Rolando Casares Sotos says he's been labeled a political dissident by the government.
We didn't write anything that wasn't the truth, but from that moment on, you were called a dissident of the revolution, supposedly. The government got stuck, stalled, 50 years ago, and the independent journalists have the chore of being the voice of the Cuban people that cannot demand their rights.
The Human Rights Watch report also states those who publish information considered critical of the government are sometimes subject to smear campaigns, attacks, and arbitrary arrests.
For this bulletin that brings news about Cuba, if they want right now, they could handcuff us, put us in jail, and say it's enemy propaganda. Enemies. Boom. Behind bars. They lock us up. 1, 2 years in jail for writing this bulletin.
Jose says he spent about a year incarcerated, but he had it easy compared to Egberto, who says he spent more than 15 years in prison.
Cuban prisons are filled with torture, hunger, needs, abuse, all kinds of violations. I went through several prisons in Cuba only for claiming and demanding my rights and fighting for a different Cuba.
Both men say what they write is the truth about their country, but reporting in Cuba is complicated. They say even this conversation could put them back behind bars.
This conversation is illegal. The things that positively reflect the government are legal. But if we say, no, there are diseases, there is hunger, there are needs, there's no electricity, then that's illegal. It's censorship.
But official journalists who work for the government or party news media disagree. Matilde Salas was a state-recognized journalist in Cuba for 47 years. Now retired, she says she was never censored.
I haven't found that the government has said no to this and yes to that. I have been able to go forward with reporting because I have tried to get to the bottom of what I'm writing about.
Jessica Castro, a journalism student at the University of Havana, believes everyone should have the freedom to voice their opinions, but fears some calling themselves independent might not be sincere.
Not everyone that declares himself as an independent journalist is an independent journalist. Many times, they aren't even journalists. They are people that have other objectives, and journalism is a convenient way of hiding what they're actually doing.
In fact, some of the journalists calling themselves independent admit they receive financial support from the U.S. and other countries.
This government wants to tell the world that we are mercenaries. We are not mercenaries. We exist independent from the help of foreign countries. If they help us, that's very good. But if they don't help us, we keep fighting.
Many see state-recognized journalists as the voice of the government, and independents as working for an anti-Cuban foreign agenda, which leaves many Cubans asking who they can trust.
In Cuba, journalism has a political twist. For example, there are newspapers where they write many things that really don't matter. Things that are happening in Syria and Venezuela, things that are convenient, but they don't really write about what is happening inside the country.
Jose says that's why he's willing to risk his freedom for this grassroots movement, which aims to allow Cubans to tell their own stories and have their voices heard by the rest of the world.
The difference between an independent journalist and a government journalist is that government journalists are aware that they are writing lies, that they are writing propaganda. I write the truth. When you write the truth, for example, if you write about something that wasn't in the government press, that gives you a little bit of prestige in society. There are many people that say, hey, this is true, it happened here, and it wasn't in the newspaper because it is not government propaganda.
Although independent journalists and those recognized by the government have many different opinions, they both believe the press is very important for the future of Cuba. So important that Jose plans to travel to Miami to take journalism courses.
This trip is going to cause a lot of problems for me. On this trip, I am going to prepare to be a better journalist. I'm going to learn many things that I don't know and that I have never been able to know because of the wall that exists in Cuba.
A wall independent journalists claim denies Cubans free speech, one Jose hopes to break down.
I know that when I come back, I'll have better tools for work, but I'll have even more pressure from the security forces. I'm very scared, but in reality, if I don't do it, who's going to do it? It seems like when we're born, we're injected with a virus of fear. But we have to find the antidote. And the antidote for that virus is us, the journalists.